Everyone once believed Crimea would never change hands again. Russia called it untouchable, permanent, unbreakable. But now, the world is asking one dangerous question. Is Crimea slowly slipping away from Russia? Military pressure is rising. Supply routes are under threat. Global power lines are shifting. And silence from Moscow is getting louder. Tonight, we break down the signs, the strategy, and the power shift shaking Russia right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are discussing one of the most sensitive and important geopolitical questions of our time. Is Crimea falling back to Ukraine? This topic is not about rumors or emotional headlines. It is about understanding power shifts. Crimea has remained a symbol of Russian strength since its annexation in 2014. For years, Moscow treated Crimea as secure territory. Military bases were expanded. Naval dominance was projected. Political control was tightened. But wars change realities. Power is not static. It moves slowly. Then suddenly, recent developments have forced analysts to re-examine old assumptions. Ukraine has increased long-range capabilities. Russia faces pressure on multiple fronts. International attention has returned to Crimea with new intensity. This does not mean Crimea has already changed hands. It means the environment around it is changing. Strategic balance matters more than declarations. When supply lines weaken, control weakens. When dominance is challenged, confidence fades. This video will examine those signals carefully. No exaggeration, no misinformation, only analysis. We will look at military pressure, political consequences, global reactions, and what this power shift means for the future. Stay with us until the end, because understanding Crimea today helps us understand global stability tomorrow. This is not just about land. It is about influence, control, and the future of regional power. To understand why Crimea matters, we must first understand its strategic value. Crimea is not just a peninsula. It is a military anchor in the Black Sea. Control of Crimea allows dominance over naval routes, airspace monitoring, and regional deterrence. For Russia, Crimea represents depth and security. For Ukraine, it represents sovereignty and survival. Since 2014, Russia invested heavily in fortifying the region. Air defense systems were deployed, naval assets expanded, infrastructure reinforced. These actions created the image of permanence. But strength on paper does not always match battlefield reality. Modern warfare targets logistics, communication, and morale. Ukraine has adapted its strategy over time. Rather than frontal attacks, it focused on weakening support systems, energy routes, ammunition depots, transport hubs. When these are stressed, even strong positions feel vulnerable. Crimea relies on limited access routes, bridges, sea lanes, air corridors. Pressure on these routes changes calculations. This is why analysts now speak of shifting balance rather than sudden collapse. Control is not lost overnight. It erodes, step by step. The importance of Crimea makes every small change significant. A disrupted supply route can alter command decisions. A delayed shipment can weaken defenses. This is the foundation of the current debate. Not whether Crimea has fallen, but whether its grip is loosening under sustained pressure. Military indicators provide some of the clearest signals in any conflict. In recent months, attention has focused on activity around Crimea's defensive perimeter. Air defense systems have reportedly been tested repeatedly. Naval movements have become more cautious. These patterns matter. When a force feels secure, it projects power outward. When it feels threatened, it turns inward. Ukraine's increased use of drones and precision strikes has altered risk calculations. Even limited strikes force expensive defensive responses. Resources must be redistributed. Commanders must prepare for uncertainty. This does not mean collapse. It means strain. Russia must now defend Crimea while also maintaining operations elsewhere. That creates pressure. Every system has limits. The question analysts ask is not about one attack. It is about cumulative impact. Over time, repeated challenges reduce flexibility. They force trade-offs. Defend here or reinforce there. Crimea's geography makes it both powerful and vulnerable. It juts into contested waters. It relies on extended supply chains. When those chains are threatened, stability weakens. Military power depends on confidence. If commanders must constantly anticipate disruption, decision-making slows. This is how power shifts begin. Quietly, gradually. Not with announcements, but with adjustments. Observers watching these signals see patterns. Patterns suggest that Crimea is no longer treated as untouchable. And that alone marks a significant change in the conflict's dynamics. Beyond military factors, political pressure plays a crucial role in shaping outcomes. Crimea has long been framed by Moscow as non-negotiable. Any suggestion otherwise carries symbolic weight. Domestic narratives depend on strength, stability, control. When those narratives face challenges, leadership must respond carefully. Silence can be as revealing as statements. Internationally, Crimea remains a focal point of diplomatic discussion. Western nations continue to emphasize territorial integrity. Sanctions linked to Crimea remain in place. These pressures compound over time. They limit economic flexibility. They restrict long-term planning. Political legitimacy relies on delivering security. When questions arise about that security, confidence erodes. Ukraine, meanwhile, gains diplomatic momentum by demonstrating capability and resilience. Each successful operation strengthens its position at the negotiating table. Politics and warfare are deeply connected. Shifts on the battlefield influence talks, statements, alliances. Crimea status affects regional calculations far beyond Ukraine and Russia. Black Sea security, energy routes, trade corridors. All are influenced by perceived control. This is why even the possibility of change matters. It alters behavior. It forces recalibration. Political leaders must prepare for scenarios they once dismissed. That preparation itself signals uncertainty. The power shift is not just military. It is psychological, political, symbolic, and these dimensions often matter just as much as physical territory. Global reaction is another key indicator of shifting power. International media coverage of Crimea has increased. Analysts openly discuss scenarios that were once considered unrealistic. This change in tone matters. Perception shapes policy. When governments sense vulnerability, they adjust support. Aid packages evolve. Intelligence cooperation deepens. Ukraine's allies closely monitor developments around Crimea. Each sign of pressure reinforces strategic commitment. At the same time, Russia faces increased scrutiny. Any setback is magnified. This creates external pressure alongside internal challenges. Markets respond to uncertainty. Investors hesitate. Economic signals feed back into political decision-making. Crimea's situation influences how global powers assess regional stability. A strong grip suggests deterrence. A weakened grip suggests opportunity. This does not mean immediate action. It means preparation. The world does not react to events alone. It reacts to trends. Trends around Crimea now point towards sustained contestation. That alone represents a shift from past assumptions. When global discourse changes, it often precedes policy change. Observers remember similar patterns in other conflicts. Attention grows. Language softens. Expectations shift. These are early indicators, not conclusions, but warnings. Crimea's future remains uncertain, but uncertainty itself is powerful. It reshapes strategies across continents. Another important factor is logistics. Wars are not won only by firepower. They are won by supply, fuel, ammunition, maintenance. Crimea depends on a limited number of logistical arteries. When those arteries face disruption, pressure builds quickly. Even temporary interruptions can force adjustments. Delays accumulate. Readiness declines. Ukraine's strategy appears focused on these vulnerabilities. Rather than occupying territory, it seeks to strain systems. This approach aligns with modern warfare principles. Targeting logistics reduces risk while increasing impact. Russia must then allocate additional resources to protection. Escorts, repairs, redundancy. These measures are costly. They divert attention from other fronts. Over time, logistics pressure translates into operational limits. Units become cautious. Training slows. Rotation becomes difficult. None of this is dramatic on its own. Together, it changes the balance. Crimea's isolation increases strategic risk. Geography amplifies logistics challenges. Bridges become critical nodes. Sea lanes require protection. Airspace must be constantly monitored. Each layer adds complexity. Complexity creates friction. Friction weakens control. Analysts watching these factors see a pattern. Crimea is becoming harder to sustain at previous levels. That does not mean loss is inevitable. It means dominance requires increasing effort. When effort rises faster than benefit, strategic reassessment follows. This is how power shifts take shape behind the scenes. Psychological factors also play a significant role. Morale matters. Perception of safety matters. For civilians and military personnel alike, confidence in control influences behavior. Reports of increased defensive measures can create anxiety. Constant alerts, restrictions, reinforcements. These signal danger. Over time, they affect morale. A population that feels secure behaves differently than one that feels threatened. The same applies to forces stationed in the region. Psychological pressure does not show up on maps, but it shapes decisions. Leaders must manage not only defenses but narratives. Reassurance becomes necessary. Messaging increases. When reassurance increases, it often indicates concern. Ukraine benefits from this dynamic. Each successful operation reinforces belief in possibility. Momentum builds psychologically. Momentum is contagious. It influences allies. It influences planners. It influences future actions. Russia must counter this with demonstrations of strength. But demonstrations require resources, and resources are finite. The psychological dimension accelerates other pressures. It magnifies uncertainty. It shortens reaction time. In many conflicts, shifts begin in the mind before they appear on the ground. Crimea may be experiencing this phase. The question is not what has already happened. It is what people believe could happen next. Belief drives preparation. Preparation drives outcomes. That is why psychology is central to understanding the current situation. Technology has reshaped the battlefield around Crimea. Drones, surveillance, precision targeting. These tools reduce the advantage of static defenses. Even heavily fortified positions face new risks. Technology favors adaptability, flexibility, rapid response. Ukraine has demonstrated innovation in this area. Low-cost systems challenge high-value assets. This asymmetry changes calculations. Defending against small threats can require large investments. This imbalance strains defenders. Russia must adapt continuously. Adaptation takes time. Time creates windows of opportunity. Technology also increases transparency. Movements are observed, patterns analyzed. Surprise becomes harder to maintain. Crimea's defenses must operate under constant observation. This increases stress on systems and personnel. Technology does not guarantee outcomes, but it shifts probabilities. It rewards those who learn fastest. The current trend suggests accelerated learning on Ukraine's side. That learning influences strategic confidence. It encourages continued pressure. Over time, technological advantage compounds other factors: logistics, morale, politics. Together, they reshape the environment. Crimea's status is affected by this evolving landscape. What once seemed permanent now requires constant defense. That shift alone signals change. Power today is dynamic. It flows toward adaptability, and that reality underpins the current debate. Looking ahead, several scenarios are possible. Crimea could remain under Russian control with increased costs. It could become a zone of persistent pressure. Or negotiations could reshape its status over time. None of these outcomes are predetermined, but trends inform probability. Analysts focus on sustainability. Can current control be maintained indefinitely? At what cost? Under what conditions? These questions matter more than slogans. Ukraine's strategy appears designed to keep options open, maintain pressure, avoid overextension, force reassessment. Russia's strategy appears focused on defense and deterrence. These opposing approaches create tension. That tension defines the next phase. International actors will respond to developments, aid levels, diplomatic engagement, security guarantees. All are influenced by perceived momentum. Crimea sits at the center of these calculations. It is both symbol and strategic asset. Future decisions will reflect lessons learned so far. Adaptation will continue. Innovation will matter. Endurance will be tested. The outcome will shape regional order. This is why the question persists. Not because answers are clear, but because stakes are high. Watching trends closely is essential. The story of Crimea is still being written. Each chapter builds on the last, and the direction of that story will influence global security for years to come. In conclusion, asking whether Crimea is falling back to Ukraine is not about declaring victory or defeat. It is about recognizing change. Power shifts rarely announce themselves. They emerge through pressure, adaptation, recalculation. Crimea today exists in a more contested environment than before. Military pressure, political scrutiny, technological change, psychological impact, all contribute to this shift. None alone decide outcomes. Together, they alter trajectories. Understanding this helps cut through noise. It replaces speculation with analysis. The future of Crimea remains uncertain, but uncertainty itself marks a departure from past confidence. That matters. For Russia, for Ukraine, for the world. Watching how each side adapts will reveal much. Strategies evolve. Narratives adjust. Decisions follow. This channel will continue to monitor developments carefully, with facts, with context, with responsibility. If you found this breakdown useful, stay connected, because understanding global power shifts helps us understand tomorrow's world. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, share your thoughts respectfully in the comments, and stay informed with us.